The funeral home smelled of flowers and fake tears. Rich men in sharp suits stood in groups, whispering. Old colleagues hid behind fancy handkerchiefs, pretending to care. Family members, who hadn't talked in years, hugged like they were close. I stood by my father's casket, staring at the gold nameplate, Jonathan Whitmore, beloved father, visionary leader. The room buzzed, but not with sadness. Everyone was talking about money. Who would get Whitmore Enterprises, the $80 million company my father built from nothing? I'm Melissa, his only daughter. For 6 years, I worked under Dad, learning every part of the business. I studied hard, got degrees, and earned his trust. I thought the company would be mine to lead. I was ready to carry his legacy. But then I saw my brother, Daniel, across the room. His eyes were too calm, his smile too smug. It sent a cold shiver through me. He hadn't worked a day in the company. He partied, spent Dad's money, and acted like he deserved everything. Why was he so confident? People came up to me, saying sorry for my loss. I nodded, but my mind was on Daniel. He stood with a lawyer, whispering, glancing my way. The air felt heavy, like a storm was coming. Everyone had guesses about Dad's will. Some thought I'd get the company because I worked for it. Others said Daniel, the son, would win because Dad liked tradition. I wanted to believe I was the obvious choice. I'd earned it. But Daniel's smirk made me doubt. I touched the casket, promising Dad I'd protect his dream. Whitmore Enterprises wasn't just a business, it was his life. He started with nothing, built it brick by brick. I remembered his late-night talks, teaching me about strategy, trust, discipline. Daniel never listened to those lessons. He was too busy spending cash on cars and parties. Yet, here he was, acting like he'd already won. The whispers grew louder. Who gets the empire? Melissa's the smart one, but Daniel's the son. I clenched my fists. I wasn't here to play games. I'd worked too hard, learned too much. If Daniel thought he could steal Dad's legacy, he was wrong. I caught his eye again. He raised his glass, like he was toasting his victory. My stomach twisted. Something was off. I should have seen it then, but grief made everything blurry. The funeral ended, and people left. I stayed by the casket a moment longer, feeling the weight of what was coming. Daniel was planning something. I had to be ready. This wasn't just about money or a company. It was about proving who deserved Dad's name. And I wasn't going to lose. Hours after the funeral, I drove to Whitmore Enterprises. The headquarters loomed tall, a glass tower Dad built. I needed to meet the board, talk about the future. I expected Dad's office to be quiet, his big leather chair empty, waiting for me. Instead, I walked in and stopped dead. Daniel sat in Dad's chair, feet on the desk, sipping whiskey from Dad's crystal glass. The funeral was barely over, and he was already king of the castle. "What are you doing?" I asked, voice sharp. Daniel smirked, swirling his drink. "Getting cozy, Melissa." My hands balled into fists. "This isn't your office." He laughed, loud and mean, then pulled a paper from a folder. "Oh, it is now." He slid it across the desk. I grabbed it, heart pounding. The words "last will and testament" stared at me. I scanned it fast. My blood went cold. The company, the estate, the bank accounts, everything was left to Daniel. Not a single thing for me. "This is wrong," I said, voice shaking. Daniel's grin grew. "No, it's right. Dad chose me." I stared at the paper, at Dad's signature. It was real. My mind raced. I'd worked 6 years, learning every deal, every client. Daniel did nothing but party and spend. Why would Dad do this? Daniel leaned forward, voice low. "I own everything, Melissa. You get nothing." I wanted to scream, to throw the paper in his face. But something stopped me. I remembered Dad's lessons: stay calm, think ahead. Daniel thought he'd won. He expected me to cry or beg. Instead, I started laughing. His smirk faded. "What's so funny?" he snapped. I sat down across from him, crossing my legs like we were just chatting. "You really think you're in charge, don't you?" He scoffed. "The will says so." "You're out." I tilted my head, smiling. "Did you talk to the board yet?" His eyes narrowed. "What?" I let him stew a moment, enjoying his confusion. Then I spoke. "While you were playing king, I made sure Dad's real wishes were safe." I pulled out my phone and showed him an email from the legal team. Daniel snatched it, reading fast. His face went pale. The will gave him the company, but the board had to pick the CEO. And they didn't want him. I leaned back, calm. "Dad knew you'd mess this up." Daniel's hand shook. "This is a trick. I'm the heir." I nodded. "Sure, legally. But the company needs a leader, not a party boy." I slid another paper across the desk, a signed power of attorney. "I control things now. The board's with me." Daniel stood, face red, glass almost falling. "This isn't over." I stood too, meeting his eyes. "Oh, it's just starting." Daniel's face was red, his voice loud, but I stayed calm. We were still in Dad's office, the will on the desk between us. He thought he'd won because Dad left him everything. But I had a plan. A week ago, I'd made my move. I wasn't going to let Daniel ruin Dad's company. I leaned forward, smiling. "You didn't read the company rules, did you?" He frowned. "What rules?" I picked up the will, flipping it over like it didn't matter. "The board picks the CEO, not the will. And they don't trust you." His eyes widened. I pulled out my phone again, opening the email from the legal team. I read it out loud. "Due to Daniel Whitmore's lack of experience and financial issues, the board rejects his appointment as CEO." Daniel grabbed the phone, reading it himself. His smirk was gone. "You can't do this," he muttered. I shrugged. "I didn't." "You did." I remembered years of watching Daniel. He'd blow money on parties, cars, bad deals. Dad saw it too. That's why, a week before he died, he signed a paper giving me power of attorney. I controlled the company's operations now. Daniel could own the title, but I had the power. He stood, pacing, whiskey glass in hand. "I'm the heir." "Dad wanted me." I shook my head. "Dad wanted the company to survive. You'd destroy it." I slid the power of attorney across the desk. It was signed, legal, final. "The board backs me because I know the business." "You don't." His jaw tightened. I could see him thinking, looking for a way out. There wasn't one. I leaned back, letting him sweat. "You didn't know, did you? About the board's vote?" He stopped pacing, staring at me. "Vote?" I nodded. "Tomorrow, they decide who runs this place. And it won't be you." His face twisted with anger. "You're lying." I smiled, calm. "Check your phone. They didn't call you, did they?" He pulled out his phone, scrolling, face getting paler. No messages, no calls. The board hadn't reached out to him. I stood, smoothing my jacket. "You spent years waiting for Dad to die so you could take over. I spent years making sure you wouldn't." Daniel's hand shook. "This is my company." I stepped closer, voice low. "Not anymore." I remembered Dad's warnings about Daniel's spending, his bad choices. He'd begged Daniel to learn, to work. Daniel never listened. Now, he was paying for it. He slammed the glass down. "You'll regret this, Melissa." I didn't flinch. "No, Daniel." "You will." I turned to leave, feeling his eyes on me. The fight wasn't over, but I'd landed the first blow. Tomorrow, at the board meeting, I'd finish it. Daniel thought he could steal Dad's legacy. He was wrong. I'd earned it, and I was ready to prove it. The next morning, I walked into the boardroom at Whitmore Enterprises. The air was tense, like a courtroom. The board members, older men in suits, sat around a long table. They'd known Dad for decades, helped him build the company. Some liked me, others weren't sure. Daniel walked in late, eyes red, probably from whiskey or no sleep. He sat across from me, fixing his tie, trying to look confident. I didn't smile. This was war. Mr. Langston, the chairman, spoke first. We need to choose the CEO. The will names Daniel, but Melissa has power of attorney. Let's hear both sides. Daniel leaned forward. Gentlemen, the will is clear. Dad wanted me to run the company. That's his final wish. His voice was smooth, but I saw the board's faces. They weren't impressed. I slid a stack of papers across the table. I have evidence to share. Daniel scoffed. More tricks? I ignored him. These are financial records from the last 4 years. They show Daniel's reckless spending, personal debts, and failed investments. I flipped to another page. These emails from finance warn about company money being used for Daniel's personal expenses. The room went quiet. I slid one last paper forward. This report shows Daniel tried to sell $10 million in company assets last week to pay his debts. Daniel's face turned red. You had no right. I stayed calm. It's all true. The board members looked at each other, whispering. Langston tapped the papers. Is this accurate? I nodded. Verified. Daniel gripped the table, knuckles white. This is a setup. I pulled out one final document. This is a request for an audit of Daniel's financial actions. If you pick him as CEO, it'll happen first. Langston frowned. Are you saying he stole money? I shrugged. I'm saying his choices are risky. If he's clean, he won't mind the audit. Daniel's eyes widened. He knew what they'd find. So did I. Langston looked at the board. Anything else? I spoke clearly. If you choose me, I'll keep the company strong. No scandals, no risks. Investors and employees will trust us. Langston turned to Daniel. Your plan? Daniel stammered, face pale. I'm the heir. I'll figure it out. No one looked convinced. He had no plan, no skills. Langston sighed. Let's vote. Hands went up fast. It was unanimous. I was the new CEO. Daniel's chair scraped as he stood, hands shaking. This isn't over, he hissed. I stood too, calm. It just started. He stormed out. I turned to the board. Let's get to work. The room felt lighter. The fight was over, but the real job was beginning. I'd won the company, but now I had to prove I deserved it. Dad's legacy was mine to protect, and I wasn't going to let anyone, not even Daniel, ruin it. Later that day, I drove to Dad's estate. It was Daniel's now, thanks to the will, but not for long. I walked into the study without knocking. Daniel sat there, whiskey in hand, looking like a mess. His tie was loose, shirt wrinkled. He'd lost everything in a day. He glanced up, not surprised. Here to laugh at me, he muttered, sipping his drink. I shook my head. I'm here to talk options. He laughed, bitter. Options? You took it all, Melissa. I set a thick file on the oak desk, Dad's desk, the one Daniel was never allowed to use. This is evidence against you. He froze, glass halfway to his mouth. I kept my voice steady. Embezzlement, fraud, mismanagement. You could go to prison. Daniel grabbed the file, flipping through it. His face went white. This is fake, he said, but his voice shook. I crossed my arms. It's real. And the board wants to press charges. He looked up, eyes wide. Charges? I nodded. Unless you make a deal. He leaned back, trying to act tough. What deal? I stepped closer. Sign over your shares. He flinched. What? I kept going. You own the company on paper, but you can't run it. Sell me your stock. I'll make sure the board drops the charges. You'll get money to start over. His jaw tightened. And if I don't? I stared him down. The law will handle it. They won't be nice. The room was quiet. Daniel's hand shook. He had no way out. No money, no friends, no dad to save him. Just me, offering his only chance. He swallowed hard, reaching for a pen. He signed the papers, each stroke slower than the last. It was done. I took the documents, checking them. Legal, binding, final. Daniel exhaled, voice weak. Now what? I closed my bag. You leave. Take the money, start over. But don't come back. He stared at me, eyes empty. Was this your plan? To ruin me? I paused at the door. No, Daniel. I wanted to save Dad's company. You ruined yourself. I walked out, leaving him alone in the big house. The air felt lighter outside. Daniel was gone, his power stripped away. I'd won, but it wasn't just about beating him. It was about protecting what Dad built. The company was mine now, but so was the responsibility. I thought of Dad's lessons: power isn't given, it's earned. I'd earned this, every bit of it. Back in my car, I looked at the skyline. Whitmore Enterprises stood tall, shining in the sun. It wasn't Daniel's anymore. It was mine. But winning the fight was only the start. I had to prove I could lead, not just fight. The real work was about to begin, and I was ready. Days later, I sat in my new office, Dad's old office. The leather chair felt strange, like it was still his. But it was mine now. I called my executive team for a meeting. The company was in trouble. Daniel's bad choices had hurt it. Projects he started to make himself rich were failing. Investors were nervous. Employees whispered about the future. I had to fix it. We went through every department. Daniel had spent millions on useless ideas, fancy trips he called business, deals that lost money. I cut them all. No more waste, I said. The team nodded. Some had worked with Dad for years. They knew I understood the business. Others were unsure, loyal to Daniel because of the will. I'd have to win them over. I called our biggest investors myself. Whitmore Enterprises is strong, I told them. No more risky moves. I'm in charge now. They listened, asked questions, and slowly trusted me. The stock price, which had dropped after Dad's death, started to climb again. Employees noticed the change. Assistants who used to avoid me now smiled. Executives who hesitated now shook my hand. The company was coming back to life. I thought about Dad as I worked. He'd taught me everything: how to read markets, manage people, stay calm under pressure. I remembered nights in this office, him showing me reports, explaining why discipline mattered. Daniel never cared about those lessons. He thought money grew on trees. Now, his mistakes were my problem to clean up. One executive, Ms. Carter, stayed after the meeting. She'd been with Dad since the start. You're doing what he would have wanted, she said. I nodded, but inside, I felt the weight. Leading wasn't just about fixing numbers. It was about people, employees, clients, investors. They all looked to me now. I walked the office halls, seeing familiar faces. Some had seen me grow up, fetching coffee as a teenager, learning from Dad. They knew I'd worked hard. But others whispered. She's young. Daniel was the heir. I ignored them. I'd prove myself, not with words, but with results. By the end of the week, I'd restructured 2 failing departments, hired new managers who earned their spots, and met every major client. The company felt steady again. I stood at my window, looking at the city. Dad had helped build this skyline. Now, it was my turn to shape it. Winning the company was one thing. Keeping it strong was another. I wasn't just fighting Daniel's mess, I was building something better. Whitmore Enterprises wasn't an inheritance anymore. It was a legacy, and I was its leader. I sat back in Dad's chair, ready for the next challenge. The company was mine, and I'd make sure it stayed that way, not because of my name, but because I'd earned it. A month later, I was in my office when my phone rang. An unknown number. I almost ignored it, but something made me answer. Melissa? The voice was tired, familiar. Daniel. I leaned back, rubbing my forehead. What do you want? There was a long pause. When he spoke, his voice was empty. I lost everything. I laughed, cold. No, Daniel. You sold everything. Another silence. He sighed. I thought, if I had the company, it'd fix me. Prove I was worth something. I closed my eyes. His words stirred old memories. When we were kids, Daniel was the golden boy. Dad gave him everything, toys, cars, chances. I worked for every scrap of attention. Daniel never saw it. He thought Dad's love was automatic. You never got it, I said. Dad didn't care about titles. He cared about who built them. Daniel muttered, I see that now. I didn't believe him. He'd always been good at feeling sorry for himself, then messing up again. I don't expect forgiveness, he said. I nodded, though he couldn't see. Good. He laughed weakly. You know, I thought you were cold. Always working, always trying to be perfect. I thought Dad would give me the company because I was his son. I stared out the window, at the skyline. I didn't want Dad to give me anything, I said. I wanted to earn it. Silence again. Then he sighed. Goodbye, Melissa. The call ended. I sat there, phone in hand, thinking about us as kids. Daniel got new bikes, I got Dad's old books. He'd crash his toys, cry, get new ones. I'd study, learn, build. Dad saw it. He knew Daniel would never change. That's why he trusted me. But Daniel's call left a strange feeling. Not pity, regret, maybe. Not for him, but for what our family could have been. I remembered one summer, Dad took us to the office. I was 10, Daniel 12. I loved the computers, the files, the hum of work. Daniel just wanted to leave. Dad watched us, quiet. Even then, he knew who'd carry his dream. Daniel's call reminded me why I fought so hard. It wasn't just about the company. It was about proving Dad right. I set the phone down. Daniel was gone, probably for good. He'd taken his money, disappeared. Rumors said he was in another city, starting over. I didn't care. My job was here, with Whitmore Enterprises. The company was stronger now, but there was more to do. I opened a report, got back to work. Daniel's voice faded, just another ghost from the past. I wasn't fighting him anymore. I was building something bigger, Dad's legacy, my future. The skyline glittered outside, and I knew I was exactly where I belonged. I stood in front of Whitmore Enterprises employees, hundreds of faces looking at me. It was my first speech as official CEO. The room was big, lights bright, but I felt calm. The fight with Daniel was over. Now, I had to lead. I held the microphone, voice steady. Whitmore Enterprises was built on hard work and a big dream. My father started with nothing. Today, I promise we'll keep that dream alive. No greed, no shortcuts. This company is ours. The crowd clapped, loud and strong. I saw old employees, ones who'd known Dad, smiling. Newer ones nodded, trusting me. Even those who'd liked Daniel now looked at me with respect. The company wasn't in limbo anymore. It was mine, and I was ready to prove I deserved it. After the speech, I met with my team. We had work to do. Daniel's bad deals had hurt us. He'd started projects to look important, but they lost money. I ended them, saving millions. I hired new leaders, people who worked hard, not ones who expected favors. Investors called, happy with the changes. The stock price was steady. Clients sent emails, saying they trusted us again. I walked the halls, feeling the change. Assistants who used to whisper now said, "Good morning, Ms. Whitmore." Executives who doubted me now asked for my advice. One older worker, Mr. Evans, stopped me. He'd been with Dad since I was a kid. "Your father's proud, Melissa," he said. I smiled, but inside, I felt the weight. Leading wasn't just about winning. It was about keeping everyone together. I thought of Dad's lessons. He'd say, "A company is its people." I made sure employees knew I saw them. I learned their names, their jobs. I fixed problems Daniel ignored, like old equipment or unfair schedules. People noticed. They worked harder, smiled more. The company felt alive again. At night, I stood at my office window, watching the city. Dad had shaped this skyline. Now, it was my turn. I wasn't just fixing Daniel's mess. I was building something new. Whitmore Enterprises wasn't a prize I'd won, it was a promise I'd keep. I remembered Dad's voice, "Earn it every day." I would. The board sent a letter, praising my work. Even Daniel's old allies, men who'd wanted him as CEO, now backed me. They saw the numbers, the results. I'd turned the company around faster than anyone expected. But I wasn't done. I had plans, new projects, better systems, ways to grow without losing what Dad built. The applause from that speech stayed with me. It wasn't just for me. It was for Dad, for the company, for everyone who believed in it. I wasn't just a CEO. I was a leader, and I'd make sure Whitmore Enterprises wasn't just strong, it was unstoppable. Months later, I sat in my office, signing papers for a new project. Whitmore Enterprises was stronger than ever. I'd launched a plan to grow the company, focusing on green energy. It wasn't just about profit, it was about the future. The industry noticed. Business magazines called me a rising star. Investors poured in, excited about our direction. Employees were proud, wearing company badges like medals. I thought about Daniel sometimes. Rumors said he'd moved to a small town, living quietly with the money I'd given him. Some said he was trying to start a business. I didn't care. He wasn't my problem anymore. My focus was here, building what Dad started. The company wasn't just mine, it was bigger than me, bigger than him. It was a legacy. One day, I met with a client, a big name in tech. He shook my hand, smiling. "Your father would be proud, Melissa." I nodded, but inside, I felt it. Dad's dream was alive, growing. I'd cut Daniel's bad deals, fixed the finances, and brought back trust. But this new project was mine, my mark on the company. It showed I wasn't just following Dad's path, I was making my own. At a board meeting, Mr. Langston praised our growth. "You've done more than stabilize," he said. "You've set us up for decades." The board clapped. Even the men who'd once backed Daniel now trusted me completely. I'd earned it, not with tricks, but with results. Numbers don't lie, and ours were strong. I remembered Dad's words, "Power is earned, not given." Daniel thought he could take it because of his name. I proved him wrong. Every late night, every tough call, every risk I took, it built this. The company wasn't a gift. It was a fight, and I'd won it every day. I walked the office, seeing employees busy, happy. We weren't just a business. We were a team, a family. I'd made sure everyone felt it, from the janitors to the executives. Dad always said a company's heart is its people. I kept that heart beating. At night, I looked at the skyline from my window. The city glowed, alive with possibility. Whitmore Enterprises was part of it, stronger than ever. I wasn't done. There were more plans, more goals. I wanted the company to lead, not follow. I wanted Dad's name to mean something for generations. I sat back, thinking of the journey. Beating Daniel was just the start. The real work was making the company a force, a symbol of hard work and trust. I'd done it, not because I was a Whitmore, but because I earned it. The future was mine to shape, and I was ready for every challenge ahead. One evening, I drove to Dad's estate, my estate now. The sun was setting, painting the sky orange. I walked into the study, the same room where I'd faced Daniel. The oak desk stood quiet, no whiskey glasses, no fights. Just memories. I sat in Dad's chair, running my hand over the wood. This was where he'd planned, dreamed, built Whitmore Enterprises. Now, it was where I'd carry it forward. I thought about the past year. The funeral, Daniel's betrayal, the boardroom battle. It felt like a lifetime ago. I'd fought hard, not just for the company, but for what it meant. Dad's legacy wasn't money or power, it was trust, work, pride. I'd protected that, and now I was building more. I opened a drawer, looking for old files. Instead, I found a letter, sealed, with my name on it. My heart skipped. It was Dad's handwriting. I tore it open, hands shaking. His words filled the page. "Melissa, if you're reading this, you're leading the company. I always knew you would. You're strong, smart, disciplined. I'm proud. Keep the dream alive. Love, Dad." Tears came, but I smiled. He'd known I'd win. I stood, walking to the window. The skyline sparkled in the distance, Whitmore Enterprises tower shining brightest. I'd done more than save the company. I'd made it mine. New projects were starting, employees were happy, investors trusted us. The magazines were right, I wasn't just a CEO. I was a leader. I thought about Daniel one last time. His call, his regret. He'd never understand what I did. He wanted power handed to him. I wanted to earn it. That's why Dad chose me, not with his will, but with his trust. The letter proved it. I folded it carefully, tucking it away. It wasn't just a note, it was his blessing. The future felt big, full of chances. I had plans to grow the company, reach new markets, help people. Whitmore Enterprises wasn't just about profit. It was about making a difference, like Dad always wanted. I'd make sure his name lived on, not as a rich man's title, but as a symbol of hard work. I left the study, locking the door. The estate felt different now, mine, not haunted by fights or betrayal. I drove back to the city, the skyline guiding me. Challenges would come, but I was ready. I'd faced Daniel, the board, the doubters. I'd face anything. At my office, I looked at Dad's old chair, now mine. I sat, opened my laptop, and started working. The company was strong, the legacy safe. But I wasn't done. I'd keep earning it, every day, just like Dad taught me. The skyline glowed outside, and I knew this was only the beginning.